Stephanie White didn't just call out a bad call. She declared war on a system she believes is broken. In the aftermath of a WNBA semifinal series that reeked of bias, the Indiana Fever head coach took the mic and did what most coaches in professional sports never dared do. She demanded an investigation, not a review, not a quiet meeting behind closed doors. An investigation. It was a bold move, but one that felt inevitable.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The numbers didn't lie. In Game 3 alone, the Las Vegas Aces were gifted a staggering 31 more free throws than the Fever. Calls were inconsistent. Obvious fouls went unwhistled. And the Aces, already the league's golden team, seemed to be handed every benefit of the doubt, while Indiana's best players fought through contact that never drew a whistle. White, composed but clearly fed up, pointed directly at the league's officiating inconsistencies as a threat to players' safety, team integrity, and the sport's legitimacy. Her words weren't heat-of-the-moment frustration. They were a calculated demand for change. And this wasn't coming from some fringe voice. White is a respected coach, a former WNBA player herself, and someone who's seen this league evolve over decades. When she speaks, people listen. And this time, she wasn't just defending her team. She was defending the future of the WNBA. Her public condemnation blew open a conversation that fans and media had already been screaming about online. Social media exploded with viral clips comparing missed calls, screenshots of blatant fouls ignored, and side-by-sides that painted a grim picture of officiating bias. The outcry wasn't just passionate. It was coordinated, loud, and impossible to ignore. For the league, this wasn't just another controversial game. It was a credibility crisis. And at the center of it all stood White, refusing to play politics, refusing to pretend like this was just about one tough game. She wasn't asking for a redo. She was asking for accountability. Because if playoff games are being influenced, even unintentionally, by officiating bias, then the entire foundation of fair competition is in question. This isn't the first time fans have questioned the WNBA's officiating standards. But it might be the first time someone from inside the league pushed back this hard, this publicly. And if the league chooses to stay quiet now, it won't just be a missed opportunity. It will look like complicity. Stephanie White didn't just shine a light on a problem. She ripped the curtain down. Now the question isn't whether something's wrong. It's whether the league has the courage to fix it. Stephanie White's demand for an investigation into the officiating of the Indiana Fever versus Las Vegas Aces semifinal series marks one of the most pivotal moments in recent WNBA history. Her decision to call out the referees directly was not a spontaneous outburst. It was a calculated statement born out of visible, measurable disparities that raised real questions about fairness. For years, coaches have walked a thin line when it comes to criticizing officiating, often fearing fines, suspensions, or reputational damage. Yet White chose to break that silence because what unfolded on the court did not align with what the game is supposed to represent. Fair play, competition, and respect for athletes' effort. The numbers alone speak volumes. A 31-shot difference in free throw attempts is not something you can dismiss as an accident or simply a stylistic clash. Indiana is a team built on physical play, driving hard to basket, and battling inside with the likes of Aaliyah Boston dominating the paint. For such a team to come out on the wrong end of so many foul calls suggests something deeper. Fans, analysts, and players themselves picked up on it immediately, fueling outrage across social media with clips, slow-motion breakdowns, and side-by-side comparisons of fouls called on Indiana versus similar plays ignored when committed by the Aces. When discrepancies are that obvious, the narrative of bias writes itself. Stephanie White did what leaders are supposed to do. She refused to let her players' efforts be overshadowed without speaking up. Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, and others fought tooth and nail against one of the league's most decorated franchises. Instead of talking about their resilience and performance, headlines became about the referees. White's demand for a league-wide investigation wasn't just about her team's chances in one playoff series. It was about protecting the credibility of the league during a critical growth period. The WNBA is not in a position to allow shadows of corruption or bias to linger. With rising stars like Caitlin Clark, Boston, and others drawing new fans every season, The foundation of trust in the game must be solid. If fans begin to believe results are predetermined or manipulated, the momentum the league has fought so hard to build could vanish. This is not the first time the WNBA has dealt with accusations of inconsistent officiating. Over the years, coaches and players have quietly voiced concerns over missed fouls, questionable reviews, and the perception that star-heavy teams get preferential treatment. The Aces, as back-to-back champions and a franchise heavily promoted as the league's crown jewel, are at the center of this storm. Many fans feel the Aces are treated with a lighter whistle, while upstart teams like Indiana have to fight not only their opponents, but also the referees. That perception, whether entirely accurate or not, is poisonous to a league trying to expand its audience. The outrage following White's comments showed just how fragile the league's credibility is. Fans clipped plays where Boston absorbed heavy contact with no whistle, contrasted with light touches against Aces stars that led to foul calls. These videos spread rapidly, with outrage pouring in not only from Fever fans, but also from neutral observers who simply want fair competition. Social media has become a powerful accountability tool in sports, and in this case, it amplified the suspicion that the refereeing was not impartial. The WNBA cannot ignore this wave of criticism, because fans now expect transparency and accountability from every league in professional sports. For the players, this controversy cuts even deeper. Athletes dedicate their lives to competition, and when their efforts are undermined by questionable officiating, it strips them of recognition. Lexi Hull's resilience playing through injuries, Boston's dominance in the paint, and Mitchell's scoring prowess should have been celebrated. Instead, they became footnotes in a debate about whether the game was rigged. That's not just unfair, it's demoralizing. These players, many of whom are young stars carrying the league into the future, deserve to have their legacies defined by performance, not by officiating scandals. The stakes are even higher given the current trajectory of the WNBA. Viewership is climbing. Merchandise sales are booming. Public interest is at levels the league has never seen before. But with growth comes scrutiny, and every flaw is magnified. If casual fans tuning in for the first time see games decided by questionable refereeing, the league risks turning excitement into skepticism. Growth depends on credibility. Fans have to believe that what they're watching is genuine competition, not a storyline influenced by officials or hidden agendas. Stephanie White's demand is a direct challenge to the league's leadership. How Kathy Engelbert and the league office respond will define the path forward. Silence or dismissiveness will only deepen the distrust. A proactive response, one that includes an investigation, transparency in officiating standards, and perhaps reforms such as independent review boards, could reassure fans and players alike. Other leagues have faced similar crises. The NBA has long dealt with conspiracy theories about refereeing, but its willingness to acknowledge errors publicly and explain controversial calls has helped maintain trust, even when disagreements remain. The WNBA must learn from that and adopt reforms that bring transparency into the process. Systemic reform is not optional. It's necessary. Better training for referees, the use of advanced technology to review questionable calls, and clear public communication about officiating decisions can all help. Independent oversight could remove the suspicion that referees are influenced by league priorities. Fans want consistency. Players want fairness. Coaches want accountability. These are not unreasonable demands. They're the very foundation of sport. The public outrage itself is also a sign of how invested people are in the league's success. Fans don't erupt over meaningless issues. They do so because they care deeply about the game and its integrity. This controversy, as damaging as it appears, could become a turning point if the league embraces the pressure and responds with meaningful change. Transparency is no longer optional in professional sports. It's expected. Every missed call, every questionable decision will be scrutinized on social media. The league can either resist this reality and suffer, or embrace it and grow stronger. The long-term implications are clear. If the WNBA ignores these issues, it risks alienating its growing fan base and undermining the trust of players and coaches. If it acts decisively, it can transform this controversy into proof of its commitment to fairness. Fans will rally behind a league that admits flaws and works to fix them. Players will feel respected knowing their efforts are valued. Coaches like Stephanie White will no longer need to risk fines and suspensions to demand accountability. This is a league's chance to show that it is serious about integrity. At its core, this controversy is about trust. Trust in the referees. Trust in the league. Trust that outcomes are decided by athletes, not officials. Without that trust, the league cannot thrive. Stephanie White's demand for an investigation is not just a reaction to one playoff series. It's a call to action for the WNBA to protect its future. The choice now lies with the league. Confront the problem head-on and emerge stronger, or ignore it and watch credibility slip away. For fans, players, and everyone who believes in fair competition, this moment matters. Stephanie White stood up not just for her team, but for the integrity of the entire league. Her voice has sparked a movement that cannot be silenced. Now the question is whether the WNBA will listen, take responsibility, and act decisively. Because without fairness, there is no game worth watching. If you believe the WNBA owes its fans and players accountability, demand transparency, share your voice, push for reforms, support those like Stephanie White who refuse to stay silent. The future of the league depends on action today. Now the ball is in the league's court. The controversy surrounding the Indiana Fever versus Las Vegas Aces semifinal series is no longer just a matter of a few missed calls. It's become a litmus test for the WNBA's values. Stephanie White's demand for a full investigation isn't just about a singular moment in a high-stakes playoff game. It's about a pattern that's been brewing for years. Fans have whispered about it. Players have hinted at it. Now, a head coach has finally screamed it from the rooftops. Enough is enough. The issue is systemic, and everyone sees it now. The 31-shot free throw disparity in that game wasn't subtle. It wasn't a judgment call, or two that slipped through the cracks. It was a gaping canyon of inconsistency that made viewers stop and ask, how does this happen at the professional level? And not just viewers with a rooting interest. Neutral analysts, former players, journalists, they all saw it. The free throw count didn't align with the pace or physicality of the game. Indiana wasn't playing reckless basketball. They weren't hacking players out of desperation. They were playing smart, physical, playoff basketball. The kind of basketball that gets rewarded when the calls are fair. But that's not what happened. Instead, the Fever got hammered in the paint and on the perimeter, while barely seeing the whistle blown in their favor. Meanwhile, the Aces strolled a line like it was part of their game plan all along. It wasn't just frustrating, it was demoralizing. And if you're a player putting your body on the line every possession, what does that do to your mindset? It tells you, no matter how hard you play, the outcome might be out of your hands. That's the exact opposite of what sports are supposed to be. Stephanie White knew that. That's why she risked everything by going public. There's an unspoken rule in sports. Coaches don't blast the officiating unless the injustice is undeniable. Because the price for speaking up is steep, fines, suspensions, and sometimes quiet retaliation from a league. But when you feel your players are being robbed of a fair fight, what other choice is there? White chose to lead. And by doing so, she exposed something the league can no longer sweep under the rug. It wasn't just her words that made waves. It was how the basketball world responded. Within hours, social media was ablaze. Not with baseless accusations or conspiracy theories, but with real evidence. Clips, replays, side-by-side comparisons. The internet became a courtroom, and the fans became the jury. And the verdict was loud and clear. This wasn't just bad officiating. This looked like favoritism. The Aces are the reigning champions, the league's most marketable franchise, a team filled with star power, media narratives, and commercial appeal. Is it a coincidence that they seem to get the benefit of the doubt in the biggest moments? Maybe. But when those calls pile up year after year, when they always seem to swing one way, it stops looking like chance. It starts looking like a pattern. And patterns don't lie. That's the part that stings for Indiana. This wasn't just a semifinal series. This was a statement season for the Fever. Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell. These are young, hungry players who fought to put the franchise back on the map. And they didn't just show up. They made people believe again. Every game was a chance to prove they belonged with the league's elite. But when the referees dictate the outcome, that journey gets tainted. You don't need a scoreboard to see who was robbed. You just need to watch the tape. Stephanie White's team deserved better. And now, the fans are demanding that the league step up and admit it. Because this isn't a small league anymore. This is a league that can afford to brush things aside and hope the media cycle moves on. The WNBA is growing fast. It's breaking viewership records. It's producing stars who are becoming household names. That's a good thing. But it also means there's no place to hide when controversy strikes. And this is the moment where the league must decide. Does it double down and protect its image? Or does it face the truth head-on and fight to become better? Because make no mistake, this is about trust. Trust that the games are real. Trust that players aren't wasting their best years on a rigged platform. Trust that fans are investing their passion into something that values integrity. Once that trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to get back. And this isn't just about the Indiana Fever. It's about every team that's ever felt like the odds were tilted against them. It's about every coach who bit their tongue to avoid a fine. Every player who took an elbow to the face and got no call. Every fan who watched in disbelief as the whistle blew in favor of the league's favorites. It's about history and accountability and growth. Because the worst thing that could happen now is silence. If the league ignores this, if it finds Stephanie White and moves on without addressing the core issue, that would send a message far louder than any press release ever could. A message that says, we're not listening, we don't care. And that would be devastating, not just for the Fever, but for the league, because the world is watching. New fans, new investors, young girls who dream of going pro. If they see that the system is broken, what happens to their dreams? What happens to the next generation of Aaliyah Bostons? They deserve better. The game deserves better. Now is the time for the WNBA to lead, to investigate the allegations fully and transparently, to make the results public, to implement real changes in how games are officiated and how referees are held accountable, not just for the series, but for every game going forward. This is not about one bad night. It's about every moment that's been stolen, every legacy that's been clouded, every player who wonders if they're playing a fair game. Stephanie White gave the league a chance to be brave, to admit imperfection, to commit to doing better. What happens next will define the WNBA for years to come. If it chooses transparency, reform, and fairness, it will earn the loyalty of every fan who ever doubted. If it chooses silence, denial, and image control, it will bleed trust slowly and painfully until nothing's left but cynicism. Because once fans start asking, what's the point? You've already lost them. This is a media crisis. This is a foundational moment. The WNBA has a chance to protect everything it's built over the past decade. It has a chance to honor its players, its fans, and the game itself. But that window is closing. Stephanie White stood up. Now the question is whether the league will do the same. Here's the thing. This isn't just a league problem anymore. It's personal now. Personal for every Fever player who left it all on the court, only to watch the game be decided by a whistle they didn't control. Personal for Stephanie White, who risked her career to say what so many have only dared to whisper. Personal for fans who invested their time, money, and emotions into a sport they believed in, only to wonder if the scoreboard actually tells the truth. This goes beyond one semifinal series. It's not just about Indiana versus Las Vegas. It's about a deeper fear that creeps in when fairness feels optional. That maybe, just maybe, the outcome isn't based on hustle, grit, or strategy, but something far more disturbing. What happens to the soul of the game when players start questioning if their fate was sealed before tip-off? What happens to young fans watching at home, idolizing these women, only to be told that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, the game might not reward you? Because it's not about effort, it's about optics. That's the line the WNBA is now walking. And let's not pretend this was a one-off. Fans remember the missed calls, the uneven reviews, the moments that felt rigged. These memories stack, and now they're overflowing. Stephanie White didn't just unleash a storm, she exposed a wound. One the league can no longer hide behind flashy promos or highlight reels. A wound that's been festering, just waiting for someone with the courage to point at it and say, this is not okay. So here we are, 31 free throws to 0 wasn't just a stat, it was a statement. One that said loud and clear, something is off. And fans responded, not because they hate the Aces, not because they can't accept a loss, but because they saw something that didn't feel right. And when things don't feel right in sports, it cuts deep, because sports are supposed to be the last place where the rules matter, where hard work means something, where the best team wins, not the most marketable one. So what now? The WNBA has a chance to be bold, to prove that integrity isn't just a slogan they put on a banner. It's a principle they're willing to defend, even if it means shining a light into uncomfortable corners. Or they can stay silent, punish white, ignore the noise. But that noise is not going away. Not this time. Because this isn't just a controversy. It's a reckoning. The players are watching. The fans are watching. And now, the league has to answer. Will they fight for fairness? Or protect the illusion? We're all waiting. Do the right thing, WNBA. The game and its future depends on it.